injustice, this system full of racism.
Yeah. And one thing I look at and I see between all of us, we are all united here right now about the fact that we, the people, are the people that put them in place.
Hold on. Let's get back at the table. Why not just go start your own league?
Barry Axius, More Truth Than You Can Handle. I appreciate all the love and support for everyone that showed out to the third annual Void Crab Feed. You know, the fundraiser was awesome, was epic. You know, everybody that came out, the kids that did a super job, all the help, all the volunteers, donations, and those who buy tickets, showing black economics and the power of positivity. And that, again, shows that we can do. We can create a system, an economic system, to be able to put back into our communities, put back into our kids. So, if you watch and pay attention to the blueprint, I ask myself all the time, and I'm going to ask you, why can't this happen more often, right? Because the systems that have been created and designed for others have not been designed for us. So let's really think about that for a second. Let's think about that. What system has been designed here in America for the black man and woman? Education? Economics? The justice system? Well, some of the three major systems that we are constantly criminalized, marginalized, or defined as something that we're not. These three systems that you have seen your brother, sister, your spouse, husband, whatever, going through it in one of these systems over and over and over again. And then we ask ourselves, well, how have these systems become the way they have become? And why do we always, as black people, always want to blame these systems? Why is it that everyone else can navigate and maneuver in systems and we can't? Well, it's just simple. And a perfect example of that is when I recently read, and I don't know if people have been sleeping, but it's funny how this story kind of came, and then you had another ISIS attack, right? So you talk about a myth that you consider, or other people consider to be one, but in a lot of others who have woken up know it's a reality, the war on drugs. I mean, there's been enough evidence, enough situations to really see that the war on drugs was centered on a certain community. And I know I'm going to say black community because there I go talking that black shit again. But this was the black community being attacked, as well as the hippies. And a former Richard Nixon aide, I don't know how long or how old the story was, but it's come out that he basically said, and hasn't denied it, and said that that war on drugs was actually a war on black people and the hippies. Basically, anyone that wasn't for the war. You know, you cannot sit there and say to people who don't believe in, you know, this war, the Vietnam War at that point, that America wants to fight. You can't throw them in jail because they don't believe in it. You know, you got to do something, right? You got to create an environment of chaos. And this same environment of chaos, when you really look at it to right now and back then, doesn't that sound familiar? If we're paying attention, if we're keeping score on the scoreboard, doesn't all of this sound way too familiar? So now someone has come out and basically said, a Richard Nixon aide, part of his administration, has said that that war was never about the drugs. It was about the people. And the targeted people were black people. Yet and still, you have people like myself and others who will be considered anti-American, anti-white, radical. You don't know what you're talking about. The systems are great. How can a system be great that wasn't even placed for you? And then how can these systems be great that every time, especially one certain set of individuals are constantly being targeted and manipulated and ridiculed and constantly used and abused and being thrusted and being broken in these systems? How can these systems be really made for those people? Now, I'm trying to figure it out. You know, Easter just passed, the resurrection, yay. All right. I don't know if we celebrated Jesus' birthday or we celebrated a white Easter bunny, which one it is. But I know that there was also this religious system that they poured into us thinking that there was a white man that was Jesus. So we're going to talk about that. But it's crazy how a story like this happens, and then we're more focused on having our Easter Sunday dress and Easter Sunday suit and screaming about the resurrection. But we're not paying attention about the Black Holocaust that occurred, what the war on drugs did to the black community, that a government that some of you so trust and believe can do no wrong targeted black people, when there's been movies, documentaries, it's been individuals speaking up against that. There was a group that stood up against this. The Black Panthers that were just terminated. But yet it's still, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about ISIS. But then I ask you, what is ISIS? Who is ISIS? Why is there an ISIS? And every time ISIS does something, ISIS always says, it was us who did it. Are you serious? Like, how dumb and blind are we? How dumb and blind do you believe that we really are? This is the unfortunate thing that we get. We constantly get the propaganda. And you guys constantly buy into the propaganda. And that becomes the frustration for a lot of people like myself. And I have to break it down into simple terms to understand where your mind is and to have you people understand where my mind is. My mind is that here is what we have to do. Shut down, break away, and divorce this system. Here is in the minds of some other individuals. We have to reform this system. But you cannot reform a system that was never created to have you even be a part of the system. When I listen and I hear this truth finally come out, I then ask myself, what in the world would any black man or woman who has the right to vote would even consider or think to vote Hillary Clinton? When Hillary Clinton's husband, so many would love to tab him as the first black president because he was on there with a saxophone on Arsenio Hall and he was Mr. Hip, he was Mr. Swagger, sat there and created a law that instigated more of the termination of black folk, black family than you've ever seen. Because now those lower level drug crimes now have strikes on them. Now these felonies have extended time. And he's went on record to apologize and say that he probably made a big mistake. But yet and still, you brothers, you sisters who are all making these, I can't even understand it. You're creating these different advertisement campaigns to say vote for Hillary Clinton. She does a little nay-nay every once in a while, and I was vote for Hillary Clinton, right? But instead, you guys don't remember that she's the same person that was talking about super predators. Who the fuck was the super predators she was talking about? The super predators she was talking about was black people. So I'm really trying to figure out, like, those want to reform. I say we need a divorce. Ain't no system here in America has been created for the black man and woman. Ain't no party, Republican or Democrat. They're all racist form systems that have been created to keep us on the lower bottom and want to prey on us with the mindset of thinking that this is a democracy, so then we will follow a Democrat as if it represents the people or it represents the lower level. It represents the rich. It represents those who are in power. Why are we confused by that? And then when you look in history, well, shoot, before the Republicans was allegedly supposed to represent the black people before the Democrats. And now it's a role reversal. But there ain't no role reversal. It's all the same thing. They resent represent the parties, and those parties are the people in power. That's it, and that's all. So miss me with the Democrat, miss me with the Republican. If we're going to be into the political form, we need to create our own party. This is that simple. And I'm not feeling no Bernie Sanders, because if he ain't talking about reparations, he ain't talking to me. And all this Donald Trump shit that everyone's getting so hyped up on, all of this, like the funny thing about us black folk is, it takes us to see a Donald Trump to react. When this whole shit been going on, why does it take Donald Trump to say a few different things to get you guys excited, and now we want to go out there and we want to get into politics and see what's really going on when this has been going on? Because Donald Trump is saying a few slick things. All Donald Trump is another pawn to see our reaction. They know what we gonna do. We ain't gonna do shit. Cause see, what we're gonna do is we're gonna really go to the polls, and we're gonna go sit and we're gonna vote, because we're gonna be like, we're not gonna allow Donald Trump to get in there as if anybody else besides Donald Trump is gonna be any better. If a black president hasn't been able to fulfill the necessary needs of the black community, who in the hell do you think out of all these candidates, from a Sanders to a Clinton to a Trump, and maybe to a Cruz, is going to be able to handle and fit the black needs? Please explain to me that. When in reality, blacks don't even want to fill in their own needs. Because when I'm sitting here on my timeline and I'm seeing resurrection, I'm seeing Easter, and I'm kind of shaking my head like, what? Did y'all just see that basically somebody in the Nixon administration just admitted to the genocide of black people? Because we don't make the drugs, we don't bring the guns. It's as simple as that. You don't bring it, we don't know, we don't grab, nothing happens. But of course, if you put people in a position, and I know it's for those people that's going to say everybody has a choice, you don't have to pick up a gun, you don't have to do drugs, but if you're in a situation when all you figure you have is this dope for hope, what would you do when you are trying to take care of your family and you see your homeboy making it good? What would you do? Especially when the good old white man has come down and given you hope. Because he's given us the good and the bad. Daddy's home, right? Like I'm totally confused, because we have a lot to think about. We have a lot to do. We have a lot to figure out on how we're going to move forward. Because there's too much evidence. There's too many things coming out for us as black people to really go and back to what they are telling us is our reality. To go back and say we can be involved in this system. It's an easy, simple play of domestic violence. It is an easy divorce that we need to make with this system. Whether it be white America, however you want to play it. But it's a divorce of the system. We can no longer entertain the things that they give us to entertain, because none of this stuff has ever worked out in our favor. Nothing. They gave us a black president. Did that work out in our favor? We have sat there and we have protested. We have rioted. We have called up for the higher powers of justice to give us justice for these murders of our brothers and sisters. Has that gotten us anywhere? So we waited for the justice system to give us something that we believe we should have had, and that still hasn't worked. So where do we go from here? Because economically, the only way they're going to give us is if we entertain them. So if you ain't shooting hoop or talking some cool shit on the microphone, or being another coon on the TV screen, playing some feminine role or some slave role, right? Because that's what they want to see us in, a submissive slave role. And then we can talk about, well, that good black man, he triumphed. Though he didn't get anywhere and didn't get freedom, he was such a brave soul. Because that's what they want to put us in this box with all these different things. And we see day in and day out. That's what they want to show. We're not going to get anywhere further. Because unless you're submissive, you're selling out, or you're entertaining, they don't want us in the system. So when you're speaking out, being outspoken, speak black power, talk about defining the role of the black man and black woman, talk about building into our economics, talk about separation, you become a threat. And now you're radical. And now we need to terminate you. Where do you black folks want to go with this? Because whether it's a Bill Cosby or Kevin Johnson, hey, Kevin Johnson, how's white supremacy feel? They will expose and do what they need to do to you whenever they feel you are no longer necessary. You can play the game, but then at the end of the day, they will play you. But yet still, we ain't talking about Richard Nixon. We more focused about what ISIS is doing. Oh, really? And so y'all still gonna also tell me that 9/11 was all the terrorists from the Middle East, right? You know what I'm saying? Just like I'm supposed to believe that Santa Claus is still alive, right? The confusion and the ignorance that they try to display and that they try to put out for black folk especially is almost embarrassing. But what's more embarrassing is that with all of the evidence, with all of the history, with all of the proven facts, because a lot of this stuff is not fictional, y'all do the research. You check it out. Look at it chronologically and ask yourself, well, something doesn't sit right. You think like some black folk woke up one morning and said, I'm just going to go spread dope all through his community. Yo, because they'll point out Freeway Ricky Ross and some of the other good gangsters that were some of the big high-time dope dealers back in the day, but they won't show you who really instigated that. And then again, when you talk about Richard Nixon, this guy's whole presidency was through scandal. And even more or less, the government at that particular time, it was all bad. I mean, it was mob written all over it. It was all type of back deals going on. And it ain't changed. It's just we don't pay attention to it like that no more. We don't even look at it like that no more because we're so busy with so much other shit that don't matter. Why they continually put the wool over our eyes, or why they continually to play us like a little piano. And then I ask myself, how in the hell does a black man wake up in the morning and want to kill another black man? Kill another black man because of some street and some color. Some color that will not even affect him in another life, and some street that he don't even own. And they trying to move you out anyway. So I ask myself, what are we really doing? We're going to go run to the polls in November, and we have a decision to make. Or we don't run to the polls. We show solidarity and say we're not going to vote into this system, especially when I talk about voting nationally. Locally, I see a little bit more of a play. There's some room for us to play locally, but nationally, why? But you will yell at me and talk about the democratic process. What democratic process? What has a Republican done for us? What has a Democrat done for us? What have those parties done for us? Besides, keep us believing and hoping on this American dream. That is an American nightmare. Especially when you cannot have a government come out and apologize or give you payment for the atrocities that has happened to your ancestors and to you currently, because we all know a crackhead. We all are still victims of that oppressive system. We're all victims of the Jim Crow law. We're all victims of being enslaved. We're all victims of the three strike laws. We're all victims of this education system. And somehow, some shape or form, we're all victims. But yet some of you silly Negroes, some of you silly Negroes will try to pretend like none of this ever matters. Let's just work hard, pull our pants up, and live the great American dream, right? Yes, there's some people oppressed, but that's by choice. No, motherfucker, that's by design. And if y'all don't pay attention to this stuff, as right now, so much is happening right before your eyes. Like you don't even have to go deep to history to see the effects of what is right now. But when you go ahead and go into our past, listen to some of the great leaders before, everything they have said is almost about the exact same way it is currently right now. But like I said, so many times before, too many of us has got that banana stuck in the tailpipe. So Black America, Black people, understand what we have to do. And a divorce is inevitable. It's time to go and leave the abuser. It's okay for freedom. It's okay to be liberated, but the only kind of liberation of freedom that we have to get is for ourselves, is by ourselves. It has nothing to do with anything else and nobody else but looking at our own soul, creating our own independence, building with each other and loving each other. But some of you brothers and sisters, and I've seen it, whether it's the conscious, whether it's the elite, whether it's the church goers, these different groups that we're all meshed in, we don't even have the love for each other in these groups. So how do we do the things we need to do, and how do we move forward? Because the black man will hate the other black man and hate his sister worse than the white man sometimes. And that is a big problem. But the designs were created by master. And all we doing is being puppets as he pulls the strings. Pay attention. It's all there for us. But what do we do to move forward? We got some decisions to make. Think about it. Where do we want to be in the next 5, 10 years? Do we want to keep on going about this routine the same way? Or do we want to live and go higher and elevate? Always, Black power matters. More truth than you can handle.